I have a PhD in food science, but I failed at water fasting for 23 years. Every single time. Couldn't make it past 48 hours. The nausea, the headaches, the weakness, it always won. Then I got a deadly infection and everything changed. The doctors gave me two options: antibiotics that probably wouldn't work, and surgery. Maybe two surgeries, maybe I'll die anyway. That's when I broke through the 48 hours wall, not because I finally understood fasting, but because I had no choice. This is a story of how a highly motivated man with a deadly infection discovered what thousands of people are now using to heal naturally. And I'm going to show you the medical proof. But before I tell you this story, let me tell you the one thing I learned that changed everything. Your body doesn't need you to perfect at fasting. It needs you to adapt. That's the secret. Now let me show you what I mean. Let me take you back to 1992, when I was reading a book by Paul Bragg called The Miracle of Fasting. I frequently was sick as a kid. Respiratory infections, weak immune system, constantly in and out of hospitals. When I read that book, something clicked. Fasting wasn't just about not eating. It was about giving your body a chance to heal itself. So I tried it. And I failed. Day 1 was fine. Day 2, the headache started, the nausea, the fingers would tingle. I feel so weak I could barely stand. Around 48 hours, I'd break every single time. I'd drink water, tell myself, I'll try again, and I feel like a complete failure. This wasn't just once or twice, this was 23 years of trying. Sporadically, sure, but every attempt ended the same way. Disappointment, frustration, and this growing conviction in my mind that said, you'll never be able to do this. You are not strong enough. Meanwhile, I kept studying. I went to University for Food Science, got my PhD, became a researcher in nutrition lab at a national institute. I understood fasting on paper, the science, the benefits, the cellular mechanisms, but my body refused to cooperate. And here's the painful truth. When you fail at something for 23 years, you start to believe that is just who you are. The guy who knows about fasting but can't actually do it. That belief almost killed me. September 2015. I woke up with a pain I'd never felt before. It started in my lower abdomen, sharp, burning, radiating down my left side. Within a few days, my temperature spiked to 40 degrees Celsius. I couldn't stand, couldn't move. I was trapped in bed, sweating through the sheets, and my wife was terrified. This is the ultrasound from that infection. You can see right here the inflammation. My left epididymis was severely infected with E. coli bacteria. Look at this diagnosis: acute epididymitis, left. I went to my family doctor first, then to urological specialists, and every single one of them told me the same thing. We'll try antibiotics. If that doesn't work, we'll do surgery to remove the infected tissue. If the infection comes back after the first surgery, we'll do a second surgery. If it comes back after the second surgery, there are no other solutions. I asked them directly, is there any natural way to treat this? The answer was always the same. No, impossible. You need antibiotics, you need surgery. That's the only way. But I'd been studying natural health for over 20 years by that point. I knew the body could heal itself. I'd seen it in research, in patients, in studies, and I decided not to follow the conventional procedure under any circumstances. But now I was lying in my bed with a 40-degree fever. I told my wife what to do if I died, how to handle some things. She was crying. I was trying to stay calm, but inside I was troubled. And that's when something shifted. I thought about Paul Bregg's book. I thought about all those failed attempts. And I realized I had spent 23 years failing at fasting when I didn't need to succeed. But now I needed it. This wasn't about discipline or willpower anymore. This was life or death. So I made a decision. I was going to fast no matter what it took, even if I couldn't make it past 48 hours, even if my body screamed at me to stop, because the alternative was surgery, more surgery, and maybe death anyway. Day 1 of the fast was okay. I'd done this before. No food, just water. My fever was still high, but I could handle it. Day 2, that's where it always fell apart. Right on schedule, hour 44, the symptoms started. The headache, the nausea, the dizziness and weakness that made me want to quit. But this time I remembered something from the Paul Bregg's book. He said that if you are struggling in the first few days, you can take a small amount of something sweet, honey or fruit juice, just to help your body adjust. For 23 years, I never tried that. I thought it was cheating. I thought real fasting meant pure water and nothing else. But now I was determined to try anything to continue with the fast. So I took 3 or 4 sips of fresh grape juice. And I waited. An hour later, I felt a little better. Not perfect, but better. The edge was off. The nausea backed down. I could think clearly again. I stayed on that fast. Day 3, day 4, day 5. Thank God I broke through. I couldn't believe it. For the first time in 23 years, I made it past the 48-hour wall. And when I finally stopped the fast on day 5, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Hope. But here's the thing. I tested my urine after that first fast. The infection was still there. Over 100,000 colony-forming units of Escherichia coli. It hadn't budged. So I waited a couple months, let my body recover, and I did it again. This time, 7 days. Still infected. Still over 100,000 CFUs. I didn't give up. Few months later, I went for 10 days fast. After 10 days, I got the results back. With emotions, I opened the papers from 100,000 colony-forming units down to 10,000. A 90% reduction in 10 days. No antibiotics, no surgery, just water. I was staring at the paper, rejoicing immensely, because for the first time I had proof. Proof that my body could heal itself. But 10,000 CFU was still an infection, so I kept going. A couple of months later, 40 days of water fasting. The results? 0 CFUs. The infection was completely gone. I took this to my family doctor, the same one who told me it is possible to heal naturally. I asked her what the results said. She looked at the paper and said very flatly, Everything is fine. That's it. No surprise, no questions about how I did it, no curiosity at all. And that's when I realized something about the medical system. They are not trained to see healing. They are trained to see treatment. If it's not a drug or a surgery, it doesn't exist in their world. But I had the proof right here in my hands. My body had done what doctors said was impossible. That infection never came back. Not once in over 10 years. And since 2015, I've helped many people use water fasting to heal naturally. Chronic pain, inflammations, cardiovascular diseases, joint pain, and infections like mine. That same year, I opened the Dr. Sutherland Holistic Health Center in Bucharest, and water fasting became the foundation of everything I taught. In 2022, I started relocating the center to a submountainous area of my own land, where people can fast in nature, away from the noise and the stress of the city. But here's what I want you to understand. The reason I succeeded wasn't because I suddenly became smarter or stronger or more disciplined. It was because I was sufficiently motivated to try something different. That grape juice? It wasn't cheating, it was adaptation. Your body doesn't care about your rules, it cares about survival. And sometimes giving it a small amount of natural sugar is exactly what it needs to shift into healing mode. In 2016, a scientist won the Nobel Prize for discovering autophagy, the exact mechanism that healed my infection. Your body literally breaks down and recycles damaged cells when you fast. That's not pseudoscience, that's Nobel Prize winning biology. I also learned something else in the years after. If you are fasting and you feel extremely sick, nauseous, weak, headache that won't quit, sometimes the best thing you can do is allow yourself to vomit. I discovered this after a few years into my fasting practice. The toxins that come up are usually light yellow, sometimes yellow-green, even greenish-black. And within 5 to 10 minutes of vomiting, the relief is dramatic. The headache fades, the nausea drops. You can keep going. Your body is trying to get rid of toxins. Sometimes you just need to help it along. Now, I'm not saying water fasting is easy. It's not. And I'm not saying it's for everyone. If you have serious health conditions, you need to work with someone who knows what they are doing. But if you've been told by doctors that your only option is drugs or surgery, and something inside you is saying there has to be another way, listen to that voice. Because 23 years of failure taught me this. The breakthrough doesn't come from understanding. It comes from necessity. It comes from being willing to try something different when everything else had failed. And sometimes the thing that saves your life is the thing you've been failing at your whole life. And here's what I believe. In 10 years, water fasting could become as common as taking vitamins. Because once people see the proof, like the proof I just showed you, they can't unsee it. If you've tried water fasting before and struggled to get past the first day or two, I want to hear from you. Most fasting guides tell you to just push through the pain. My guide does the opposite. It teaches you how to adapt so your body doesn't fight you. Drop a comment below with the word fasting and I'll send you a free copy of my fasting and autophagy quick start guide. It's 30 pages that break down exactly how to trigger your body's natural self-cleaning system safely and effectively. based on what I learned through years of trial, error, and eventually success. I'll personally DM you the guide. The information that took me 23 years to figure out distilled into something you can use right now. And if you want to go even deeper into the science of what happens during a fast, especially the detox phase that most people don't understand, check out this video. It's all about how to manage detox symptoms so you can actually stick with the fast instead of quitting on day 2 like I did for 23 years. Thank you for watching, and remember, failure isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning. Comment fasting below for your free guide.